Waiver of existing rights. Now, if a person has given up on his rights, then he must get consideration for sacrificing upon his rights. Okay, because he's basically giving away whatever he could call on as his rights, right? So this would require a consideration to be paid to him. If he gives up on the consideration, if he does not want a consideration, then this would be regarded as a gift. Okay, so sacrifice of rights relates to consideration. If somebody is sacrificing on their rights, they are going to get a consideration by the other party. But if somebody is sacrificing on their rights but they're not asking for any consideration, then this is considered to be a gift. Now, sacrifice of rights is valid if a person gets a thing for which he was entitled in right. Let's say if in case of inheritance laws, God forbid somebody's parents pass away, so the children get the property, so it's their right. But if they're giving up on that thing, then they should be given a payment for it. If they are giving up on a property that was inherited from their parents to them, then in that case they should be given a particular amount of money. Secondly, if a person gets alternate consideration for which he agrees and it is sufficient. Let's say if somebody is giving away the property they got from their parents, and rather than getting money for it, they're getting a better property. The other party is giving them a better property, then that is also a good enough consideration. If a person gets some third party benefit for which he agrees and it is sufficient, need not be adequate. Sufficient means materially sufficient, adequate means abundant in amount. So it does not need to be abundant in amount, it should be sufficient in case of material values. So let's say if he's giving away the property to an office, to let's say a number of group of people who want to start an office in that property, and rather than taking money from them for this property, he says that okay, make me the CEO of the company and I'll be taking this much salary every month. Whatever salary he wants to take, definitely if he is giving away his house for that office or for that organization for free, then he is going to charge a good amount of salary, right? So that is also a valid consideration. Fourth, if a person waives off his right willfully according to doctrine of promissory estoppel. Some people do that, they give away the property for charity purposes. Then he cannot get his rights back. Then they can't demand the property back from the organization. However, it is to note that concept of promissory estoppel is a shield, not a sword. Shield means it protects your rights. It does not allow you to give, it does not encourage you to give away your rights or waive off your rights. It rather protects your rights. So promissory estoppel can stop other party from claiming back his waived rights, but it cannot force someone to waive his rights in future also. So it's a protection shield. You can't, once you've waived your rights, you can't claim them back in case of promissory estoppel, but nobody can force you to give away the second property as well. Let's say if you've given the property, if you've given one property to the charity organization cannot tell you to give away the second property as well. Yes, you can't claim the first property back from them, but you can't be forced to give away your second property as well. Now, past consideration. Past consideration is in case of a contract that is formed through promise. One party is going to promise, the other party is going to give the agreed consideration at the time of formation of contract. So if a person performs any consideration without having contract for it, then that consideration is known as past consideration. You did not sign a contract right now, but you've already paid the amount in advance to the person before signing the contract. Now, this is not considered to be valid. Past consideration can only be valid consideration if the act was performed on previous request of the other party. Let's say if I am the customer and I am going to the supplier and I am, before signing the contract, I am paying him the advance amount. Now, this will not be considered a valid consideration for the order, but it would be considered only if the supplier had requested me advance payment, or it is in reasonable assumption of parties that the act will be paid. What do we mean? It is our general practice that I always pay in advance, then I sign the contract. I discuss the contract, I pay in advance, and then I sign the contract. This has always been our practice with that supplier, which is why I am doing the same. So in that case, this past consideration becomes valid. Now, bill of exchange, it is a written contract that shows you that the other party has an obligation to pay. So it is mostly issued in case of credit sale, and it gives the other party a right to receive the amount. So bill of exchange is a valid consideration for receipt. Time-based debt, according to Limitation Act, if right is not claimed in particular time, then that time has expired and you can't claim it. However, if written agreement is made after expiry, then the debt is going to get refreshed and the Limitation Act period is going to restart and the other person can claim their particular right. However, time-based debt, if refreshed through a written agreement, is a valid consideration in case of receipt of amount against expired debt. So if it refreshes, then it is a valid agreement. If it doesn't refresh, then it is not a valid agreement. Now, privity of contract. As per the principle of privity of contract, the contracting parties can only claim their rights, and obligation to pay losses of contract is going to lie with the one who needs to pay or who has to pay the consideration for the contract. Now, there are some exceptions that apply, and if they do apply, then in that case the third party also gets the right to claim. What is that? Collateral contract. Third party has right to claim because that third party is the reason why the contract has been done. Like I told you, for agent, when you sell a property or when you're buying a property, the agent comes between. So he claims his commission, and it is his right because he has worked in order to make both the parties come together. Law of agency. As per this law, all contracts are made by the agent. Who are the agents? The management. But who is being liable? The shareholders. Why? Because the shareholders are bringing in the money and the managers are taking the decision on the daily basis. Valid assignment. Through an express clause of contract, third party can be made entitled for the benefits of contract. Example of valid assignments is life insurance. So as per the life insurance, in that through a clause, you can also mention that okay, the third party can get the benefits out of it, your life insurance, but you can help any third party with that as well. Rules of intestacy. When a person dies, all of his contracts can be enforced by successors who are third parties to the original contract. That is fine. They are saying that okay, God forbid somebody's parents pass away, so the kids who are the successors can keep the contract going on, but The only thing is that they will be the ones who are going to take over and who are going to take care of the contract now. Covenant contract, restrictive contracts, these contracts are such where the third party also has a right to enforce the covenant. They enforce the restriction clause, but the third party cannot claim any other remedy. Here's an example. It says that when land is purchased from the government, it is under a covenant clause that it can be used for a specific purpose. So if you buy a land in the industrial area, it can only be used to build up industries. It can only be used for factory purposes or for office purposes. But if you're buying a land in residential area, then that can only be used to build a house in which you're going to live, or that you can give out as on rent. So in that case, even the other party is going to come and live only. You can't do any industrial activities over there. So this can be enforced by the government and by third parties such as neighbors also. Often this happens that if companies or if organizations have bought an office in the residential area and that is creating a nuisance for the neighbors, they go and complain it to the government, and then the government asks the organization to shift their branch to another area, which is actually a residential area in that case. Contract right of third party act. According to this act, third party will also get some rights as contracting parties have, which include same rights for claiming the benefit, same rights for approval before variation in contract, which means that before changing the contract, you need to get approve it by the third party as well, and same remedies for breach of contract. Now after that we have statements of contract. Now statements of contract. Statements made in a contract are divided into two heads. One is the term. It is defined as a major clause of a contract, and if it is breached, then contract is treated as seized and no party is further bound. So term is regarded as a reason why the contract is being done. Representation is defined as the minor terms of the contract, and if that is breached, then contract continues. There is no issue, but you have to pay some minor compensations for it. So for example, if you have done a contract and in that you have discussed on a profit sharing ratio, then this is a term. If somebody makes secret profits, if one of the partners makes secret profits, then they're basically they're doing a breach of the contract, and the other party might not want to continue with it. They might not want to continue with the contract if this goes on. But representation is that okay, in the contract it was mentioned that each and everything will be discussed amongst the parties and then it is going to be decided. But let's say one of the partners was on vacation, so the other partner made some deals on behalf of the partnership at his back. Now in that case, this is a minor breach. There is no issue in this. So even if we took decisions without discussing it with the other partners, the contract is still going to continue. The partnership is still going to continue. While determining that whether a clause is a term or representation, court of law considers the following factors. What factors? Importance given to the clause by parties can make it a term. If it is very important, it is a term. If it is less important, it is a representation. Any clause which is written in an oral contract can be regarded as a term. Any clause which is not written When whole contract is reduced into writing, then this shows that this clause wasn't of much importance, which is why it is going to be mentioned as representation. Any clause which is repeated again and again indicates its importance and will be regarded as a term. Any statement that requires extra knowledge or it gives you extra knowledge, then that is regarded as term. But if the receiver of the statement, one statement is being made by the lawmaker, so if his statement has extra knowledge, then this is regarded as term. Extra knowledge means he is providing you with extra knowledge regarding the law, that okay, make sure that you apply the tax rate at this and this percentage, make sure this is how you apply the tax rate. This is a term. But if the person who is receiving the information is explaining it in with extra knowledge or with the help of extra words, then that is regarded as a representation. Why? Because he is explaining the same thing that was mentioned by the lawmaker. It's just that he is explaining it. So this does not show you that it is of extra value. Okay. If a maker of statement invites other party for verification, then it will be regarded as representation irrespective of actual verification. And on the contrary, if a party restricts other party from making verification, then this will be regarded as term, because you are making a restriction. This is something important that you are doing. Now, classification of term. Classification of term and representation is made by the parties, which may result in extreme decisions, as parties use these clauses as a term, which shows that these clauses are very important. In order to counter this, court of law further classifies a term into condition and warranty. Conditions are the major terms that if they breach, then the contract is going to end. But warranties are minor term of contract, and if warranty is breached, then contract will continue. But you need to pay compensations. So you often provide terms and conditions to the people to whom you're selling your product. But if they're not working as per the terms and conditions, or if they're not agreeing on the terms and conditions, then you do not do a contract with them. But once they have bought your product and you've given them 1 year warranty of that product, now if they come back to you with a broken product and you tell them that no, I'm not going to get it repaired in for free, so in that case they might actually feel that they've taken the wrong decision, and they might spread a bad word of mouth against your company. So in that situation, injured party is the one who is bringing the product back to you, thinking that it is under 1 year warranty, so you would be giving them free recovery for the product. You're going to get the product made for free for them. But when you're actually not doing that, then they're going to spread bad word of mouth for you. So in that case, you're not basically breaching the contract, you're just not keeping your word. So you need to pay compensation to the injured party. And how can you pay compensation to the injured party? Offer them free after sales service. That is the least you can do. Classification of term in condition and warranty. So classification by statute. Statute defines that whether a clause is condition or warranty. um, in order to protect the rights of parties and in order to avoid disputes amongst parties over the identification of whether a clause is a condition or warranty. Classification by parties. So if parties made classification of condition and warranty, then court of law is going to consider this classification, but the court of law is going to conclude that whether it is actually a condition or is this clause actually a warranty. So the conclusive decision is of the court of law. Classification by court. Court of law themselves makes classification of condition and warranty based on importance of that factor at the time of the formation of information. At the time of formation of contract. Now innominate term approach. So as per this approach, classification of clauses will be done by court based on resulting circumstances. So this is related to the same thing that we have discussed right now in this third point. If results are serious, then it will be regarded as a condition. If results are minor, then this is going to be regarded as a representation, or you can say a warranty. Sources of terms. What are the terms that are incorporated? Express terms, which are agreed by the parties orally or in written form. Implied terms, agreed by the not exactly agreed by the parties, but this has been the past practice, or this is how the two parties have always been doing the work. Terms implied by statute. Terms are implied in a contract through statute. So Employment Act, this relates to, implies a term that employee must be paid salary. This is important, right? This is one of the most important clauses, that an employee must be paid salary. Terms implied by custom. These are laws, or these are terms that are agreed upon in a contract through customs, which means that in a particular country, let's say this has been the general practice, this is how the contract is. For example, in Pakistan, when you do a contract for rental purposes, generally the contract is of 11 months only. So this is a general practice as per the customs. Terms implied by court. If court of law discovers that contract among parties is incomplete, then court of law is going to imply terms through statute. If statute is not available, then court of law implies terms through customs. And if customs are also not available, then court of law themselves are going to imply some certain terms. So court of law can only imply terms in case where it is a part of case law, first thing, or it is an obvious clause and satisfies officious bystander test. That is, that clause is so obvious that it can be identified even by a bystander. Bystander means a third party or somebody who is listening to it. And third thing, if clause is of technical nature, but it satisfies the business efficacy test. Business efficacy test means that without this clause being included in the contract, the business is not going to continue. So court of law's authority to imply terms in contract is limited because court has limited time. They can't go around wasting their time for to resolve smaller disputes or to resolve smaller issues, right? They need to make sure that their time is efficiently utilized in order to resolve bigger cases.